I will begin the introduction one more time. Henry Greenbaum was born in Chuna, Greenbaum in Starachowice, Poland, on April 1st, 1928. His father, Nuchem, ran a tailor shop out of their home, while his mother, Geitel, raised the family's 9 children. In the summer of 1939, rumors of an impending German invasion became rife. Shortly thereafter, his father passed away unexpectedly. 2 months later, Germany invaded Poland, and Henry and his family escaped to a nearby farm to avoid the bombings that preceded the ground invasion of their town. The family was forced to move into Starachowice ghetto in 1940 and remained there until 1942, when Henry's mother and 2 of his sisters, along with their children, were deported to Treblinka and killed. Henry and his 3 remaining sisters were selected to work in a nearby labor camp where his sisters, Chaya, and Yita,
and Fege.
and Fege,
Chaya and Yita.
In 1943, he and his last remaining sister in the camp, Fege, tried to escape. Henry was shot in the head during the attempt. When he regained consciousness, he went to look for Fege and found a cousin who tended to his wound. It was not until the next morning's roll call that he learned that she had been killed in the escape attempt. In 1944, Henry was deported to Auschwitz and incarcerated in the Buna Monowitz subcamp. As the Soviet army approached, Henry was evacuated to Flossenburg, a concentration camp near the Czechoslovakian border. When American forces neared Flossenburg a few months later, the prisoners were sent toward Dachau on a death march. Henry was liberated at Nürnberg vom Wald on April 25th, 1945, by United States soldiers from the 11th Armored Division. Of his immediate family, only Henry, his 2 brothers, and his sister Dina survived the Holocaust. Henry and his wife Shirley settled in Bethesda, Maryland. They have 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. Today, Henry serves as a volunteer at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, sharing his story with visitors. Mr. Greenbaum.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. I am overwhelmed with such a beautiful audience here. It's full. Very nice. Thank you for coming. So most of your story, you heard part of the story already. I was not quite 15 years old, and I wound up at Auschwitz-Birkenau. But before then, which we didn't go into it, my father passed away 2 months before the war. My mom became very protective. I had 1 brother who served the Polish army. I didn't see him for like 3 years. I didn't know where he was. And we ran a tailor shop. And rumors came around that if we get a job in the factories, it might be beneficial for us. Because the town was a small town, but we had a lot of industry, mostly munition, melting down metal, scrap metal, brick factory, tiles. We did springs. We did a little bit of everything. We were mostly helping the Germans with their war, whatever they needed. We did work for them. And all of a sudden, it didn't take them too long. Well, my mother become very, I'm trying to jump ahead of my mother became very protective of us because my father was not there anymore. She said, let's take a horse and buggy and go to the farm that we knew. The farmer put us on for 3 days. While we were out there, we heard the bombing. We were only 10 miles away. We heard all the noise and shooting and all that trouble. And then we were out there for 3 days at the farm. The second day we were out there, my oldest brother, he was the 3rd child. We had 9 children at home, 6 girls and 3 boys. And he was the 3rd child. Well, I was out there with him, and there was, believe it or not, in late September, they still had tomatoes on the vine, those big clustered tomatoes, and the farmer gave us a slice of bread, and we were eating our breakfast outside. And after we were finished, supposed to go and get a glass of milk. We never did wind up with the milk anyway, because why it had happened like this, why we were eating, were not quite finished. A Polish soldier, distorted, came through our area, and he was pulling a broken bike with him. And still today, it's mind-boggling. I don't know how my brother knew of his name, because he called him by his first name. And maybe he was one of our clients, customers. We did the tailoring for him. Maybe he did that. And then maybe he was like a National Guard. He was guarding the city. I didn't know all the details about that man. But all of a sudden, while we're talking to the man, he says the German army is 3 kilometers coming this way. And the Polish soldier was running in the opposite direction. And my brother, of course, stopped him, and he asked him, where you're running? He told him, the German army's coming here. And he was running in the wrong direction because he didn't want to get caught as a prisoner. My brother, all of a sudden, I couldn't believe my ears. He said to the soldier, is it okay if I go along with you? And the soldier said, be my guest, sure, I'll take you, come on with me. And they ran, I don't know where they ran, and I followed about a couple miles. I followed them, hiding behind bushes. Every time I would stick my head out, go back to your mother, go back to your mother. He didn't want to put up with me. I was a 12-year-old, not quite 12 years old yet. It might be too much bother for him. But I didn't listen to him. Of course, I kept following him until the Polish soldier turned around and put his hands on the mouth and said, go back to your mother. I said, okay. And I went back to my mom, told him the bad news. Dave ran away with the soldier. Right away, you know, our mothers right away. So I think, so who's going to make us a living? The father's gone, and he's the oldest, supposed to run the shop. It wasn't that big of a shop, but yet we made a living at it, tailoring and new suits to order. We did that. And the girls, some of them were helping with ladies' clothes too. We'd do a little bit of everything with it. And she started to cry and all that. Anyway, she got over it. The third day, we packed up from that farm and we went home, back to our little house. Shrapnels were in the house coming through, but our house was not far away from the railroad station, and they bombed the railroad station. So some of the shrapnels came in. We could have got hurt. Mothers are always right. You know, you have to listen to moms because they mean well. And we cleaned up and went back to business. I myself, very frightened, I've started seeing them walking in the street. And I was very frightened of the soldiers with their helmets, with their boots. And everyone that was in there was carrying a rifle and walking on the sidewalk. And then I wanted to take a good look at them. So I only looked through a crack of my door where I lived if I heard the boots coming, and to see what did they really look like. They would look like Goliaths to me. They didn't do anything to me yet, but yet I was scared of them. I don't know the reason. I didn't hear any trouble yet, but I was scared. But then I got used to them. It didn't take them too long and to identify us. Most of the people that we were mostly Orthodox Jews, we lived near a synagogue. My father was the taker in that synagogue. Twice a day he went to the synagogue. He was checking. And we used to have minyan. I don't know if you know what that means. We had to have somebody after saying Kaddish. Some of you Jewish students may know that. And he was twice a day he was in the synagogue. I only went on Saturdays to the Friday night to Saturday. And we kept it up, so most of us lived near the synagogue. But we had quite a few that didn't live near the synagogue. My two married sisters and their husbands and their kids lived in the outskirts of the town. They didn't live near us. But first, all of a sudden, they did, after they put us on the Star of David, we started coming and go to school with the Star of David. We're like, you identified as a sore thumb. You're a Jew. I don't look Jewish anyway. I had the curls. I had the tassels sticking out. I didn't need that to identify me as a Jewish boy. I was Jewish. But anyway, they still insisted we wear the star. I came to public school, 6th grade I only went through, and I don't know what grade that was at. I'm sure it was the 6th grade. I came to school, the teacher says, no schools for Jewish children anymore. So the order was no Jews allowed in public school. And then all of a sudden, they gave a curfew. You couldn't stay out in the evening for so long. You could not play any soccer with other kids, which I loved, playing soccer with other non-Jews, with Jews. We were playing soccer. We got along pretty good in my town. We didn't have a lot of trouble in our town. Not that I remember of it. And then all that, I missed all that. Can't play soccer. How are you going to stay inside the house all the time with mom in there? You know, I love my mom, but still, you don't want to stay in the house. You want to go out there and play with your own children, your own age children. And they would not allow us to do that. Then they found out while we were in that section, they blocked off 3-block perimeter, short little blocks. They didn't put any fences on with our ghetto. Some of the ghettos had sections with fences. We didn't have that. They barbed wired us around in the intersections, and they had one opening where you could come through. They had 2 guards. One was a Ukrainian who joined the Nazi regime, and one that was the SS guy. With their dogs. They were guarding that. Other people were non-Jews were still living in our area too. They were not restricted that they could come out anytime they want to, come in and go out. But we were marked with this Jewish style. We could not come out of there. The only way you could come out of there would be if you showed the guard an ID that you worked in the munition factory, which my father arranged that before he passed away. We had rumors from out of town that if you had a job in the factory, it might be beneficial for you. So anyway, my 3 single sisters and I had IDs. We were able to come out of there, but only to go to work and come back. You're not supposed to stop anywhere else. There was no business for us to stop anyway. We didn't have any money to go shopping. The stores were looted anyway. It was nothing to go shopping with. So we only went to the factory and back and forth. Then they found out that there's more Jews in the town, live in the town, than just the few that the Orthodox that lived near the synagogue. They got the city police with the pickup little trucks, and the police showed them where did the Jews family live. My sister, like I say, 2 of my sisters lived in the outskirts of the town. I think it was the Einsatzgruppen, the pickup little truck. They would, in translation, the killing unit. They would come, and the policeman would show them this is a Jewish house. They would break the door down. They didn't knock lightly. Excuse me, you have to come out. No way. You just loved chaos. They broke the door down with the rifle butts, and the dogs would bark, just causing chaos, excitement. Well, you can't ask question where you're taking me. So you grab what you can. First you grab your children, of course, and then whatever, if you have any valuables, you grab. They didn't know they're not going to come back in there. But they did not. They came and brought them over to our section, and it became very crowded. And all the Jewish population from that town, I think there were either 5,000 or 6,000. I don't remember the amount of Jewish people that were in the town. And they put us in with the 3-block perimeter. And we had to put those other extra people up. Well, of course, my sisters, they came. We had to put them up. We already had a lot of children in our house. But then cousins or friends, everybody put something else. We helped one another. And we were stuck in that slave labor camp for 2 years, from 1940 to October 42. We were stuck in the ghetto area. We could not leave. And then all of a sudden in the ghetto was one good thing. The family was intact together. We all were together, miserable as it was, but still intact, which made us very happy. Moms always made sure the flock is here at the evening. She made sure all the children, we all in the house, and everybody was fine. And I'm sure other people, other mothers did the same. And we stayed in there, in that area to October 42. October 42, they decided they had too much problem feeding everybody. They didn't want to feed so many. So, I mean, that's what we thought amongst each other. So they came in October 42, and they had what they call a selection. Selection means they didn't let anybody go to work that day. The 3 shifts, we usually from 7 to 3, from 3 to 11, and then 1 week was from 11 to 7 in the morning. They didn't let the 3 shift of the Jews go out that night. Everybody was in the ghetto area. They brought in extra soldiers, the SS guys and the Ukrainians with their dogs. They came in to help. And they chased us out of the ghetto area to a more open field. At the open field, they were sitting, I don't know how many were sitting at like a table, long table, and they were directing traffic. I'll give you the scenario or the picture of my family. I walked up with my mom, my 5 sisters, the 2 married sisters, One of them had 3 little girls, and one of them had 2 boys. One sister gave up the child to go with grandma. That's how, because Rachel, the older girl, only had 2 little girls. But Faggy already had a job in the factories, ID. She showed them the ID. They went over to the opposite side. She could not take that little child with her, so she yelled to grandma. Grandma took her along with them, with the other little 3, 4 cousins and their aunt. And we didn't know the children. We all didn't know where to take them. We thought they were going to take him to a place where they don't need to work hard, because they picked people like pregnant women, women with children, women who just gave childbirth, handicapped people, at the end, and older people. And at the end of the day, we were in the late afternoon separated already. My mom, I was 5 feet away from her. She didn't give me a hug. I was a baby. I was a baby in the family. All she wanted to do is come over and give me a hug. And they stayed with the rifles and they chased her back. You can't go there. So my mom yelled over to my sisters, take care of your little brother. And that's the last time I saw them. And they took them. We didn't know until liberation. After we were liberated, we found out that they took those people away to Treblinka. Nothing but a killing center. 24 hours a day, the trains would roll in, and they were directed. I didn't see it, I wasn't there, but the museum found out, or organizations found out from the farmers what happened. They knew exactly what they did. They ordered the people to undress, and when you came, they'd let you take briefcases, suitcases with you. Oh, that's okay, you have your address on there, just leave it there, it'll follow you later. They never saw those. They arrived at Birkenau, not Birkenau, I'm sorry, the place I just mentioned, and they were ordered right into the shower room, they said. If you're from a trip, you'll make a long trip, you get to take a shower. And in the ghetto, we didn't hardly wash over there, because all you can do is take your shirt off in the summer. Men can undress from the waist on up, and they wouldn't give you soap. We used dirt from the ground and put like a mud bed all over you. And the next person, we were lucky we had a cold water pump, and they would pump water and clean yourself up. I don't know how the women kept themselves clean, that I don't know. But anyway, that's what we did. But the winter time came, we couldn't do that. You'd freeze to death. So we never washed, and we all got dirty, filthy, and we stayed in there. So that's what I say, when these people arrived at Treblinka, you get to take a shower, and I'm sure they took the children with them into the shower, hopefully to get cleaned up. Instead, the gas they had to put up with, and all of them never came out of the shower room alive, all of them. Every 24 hours, so that shows you how many people they murdered that way. And we were not aware of that. Until after the war, we were looking for them, and the people would say, don't look for them, they were murdered in Treblinka. And that's all I knew. That day I lost my mom, my 2 married sisters, 3 little nieces, and 2 nephews. And then they turned around to us after they took those people away from us. They turned around to us, the working group, and they also able-bodied people who were able-bodied. They chose them. They were not attached with children. They wanted some workers with them. So they saved quite a few of them, and they put them over to our side. And then they chased us past the ghetto area for 6 kilometers uphill. And we couldn't understand why they didn't let us into the ghetto area, because some people left things in there. So whatever was left in the ghetto stayed in the ghetto. We could not go back in there to retrieve anything. I don't know if anybody had anything or you took it with you, that I can't answer. But all I know is after chasing us for 6 kilometers uphill, we finally arrived at our destination. And we as kids never went up to it was called Mayuvka, a place, a section, on the top of a stone quarry. They built for us a slave labor camp with the 6-foot fences, 1 barbed wire and 1 wooden fence. And they had the towers and the dogs. The loudspeaker came up. Before you enter this camp here, you must empty all your pockets, all your belongings, all your valuables, money, jewelry. You cannot come through this gate with anything valuable because we'll kill you. It's like this. And then everybody obeyed. Nobody got killed that day. We put everything. I didn't have a thing with me. I was a little boy. I didn't have nothing. My sister, bracelets and watches and necklaces. They were throwing everything in. If they didn't, I don't know how to say it, in the ghetto, if they didn't, they were bribing the soldiers. You were able to bribe the Ukrainian. If you give them a gold ring or a watch, they would bring you in bread, extra bread. And they got to a point where they would change the guards so often. And you got sick and tired. You had nothing left to bargain with anymore because they changed the guards all the time. Maybe a week or two, then another guard came in. And then that's what they were doing. Anyway, we worked in this factory, I would say September of 39, already had a job. And we stayed in there until October 42. And after the selection started, they took them away. We went back into the ghetto, to the slave labor camp. And then we finally got introduced to a barrack, what a barrack looks like. We were not aware of what it looks like. Just a wooden shack on stilts. And there were so many allowed in there. I don't know, maybe 100 people per barrack. I don't know, I remember the count that they had. But they had one soldier at the barrack and one at the gate. And they gave each other signals. If it was full capacity, they gave each other a signal. They went over to the next barrack, separated the women from the men. Our barrack, they took us in. They did furnish us with a 3-foot long little blanket rolled up. Every camp I went to, they all gave us a little blanket. That day we used the blanket. Maybe we used it in other camps too. But the blanket was used not to cover yourself up. We were using it as a pillow because a piece of board was sticking out, and how can you lay your head on a board? And you can only sleep on your side. But they put 3 people into a bunk, 75 inches wide. That's how we slept together, in our clothes. So we didn't need the blanket to cover ourselves up. We used it as a pillow. And we stayed in there in our place for 1 more year. We stayed in the slave labor camp. And while we were there, the year was not quite finished yet. We came down from the dirt, from the filth and the lice. We came down with typhoid epidemic broke out. Very sickness, very catching sickness. If one catches it, for sure the next one would get it constantly. And the epidemic came out, and everybody got sick. Now, if you got sick, there was high fever, low fever, middle fever. I don't know what it was. I came down with low fever. I went to work every day. One of my little sisters, 2 years older than I was, she died of typhoid. And then the middle sister, higher, I came back from the night shift, and they wouldn't let the night shift in first until they send out the day shift first. And they're always in the front of your barrack. You belong to that barrack, you stay in the front of the barrack. And they counted to see, make sure that everybody's outside. And if you were missing, they went inside the barrack looking for you. First, they let the dogs go underneath the stilts, down to look for you in case they're hiding. But these people, these men that I was with, they could not get out of the bunk because they had high fever. There's no way they could stand on their feet. And this Anzac group of the killers, they took them out on the pickup little truck. And then after that, they sent us off to work after they filled up the truck with all the sick people. Not just one barrack got sick, all the other barracks. They always had either 5, 10 that got sick. They could not line up for work. And then later on, they sent us out to work and they calmed down. But if you had that sickness, it only took 10 days if they leave you alone. So you get over it, and without medication, you would come out all right with it. But they could not wait that. They couldn't wait to kill you. So that was the excuse. And then where did they take? The truck was taking those sick people out to the outskirts of the town. And as soon as we were put down the Yellow Star of David, they were grabbing us in the street to dig trenches in the outskirts of the town. They told us those trenches were for tanks to fall in. The war was still going on in zigzag shape. But they knew what they were doing. There was no gas chambers where I come from, my town. They didn't have any gas chambers or cremation. And people were only hung and shot. and they had to be buried. They didn't bury each one separately. They took them on like 10, 15 of them in one grave. If that ditch, I called it ditch, it's a grave, they covered it up. And they went to the next one. And they counted, I don't know how many passed away that day, how many they murdered from the typhoid, that I don't know. But I lost 2 of my sisters that way. The oldest one, low fever, she went to work too, and she became a seamstress all of a sudden. The German army was looking for volunteer tailors to work on their uniforms. So the tailors were picked, whoever had experience. They had like 100 tailors, and they had extra jobs to work on the high-ranking officer uniforms. And they were doing their work, and people were still, eventually, that sickness, that typhoid wore itself off eventually. And by that time, we only had like maybe 3 months left alone into that slave labor camp, because one of the high-ranking German officers walked into their tailor, and you have to hurry up with the uniforms. You have to have them set for such and such date, because all of you are going to be deported out of here. Well, these tailors didn't like what they heard. They said they're probably going to kill us now, because we helped them along with the war machinery, with everything. Everything that even the non-Jews did, we did too. But they at least paid them, we didn't pay us. They got a slice of bread in the morning, in a little black imitation coffee, and then when you come back from the factories, they gave you cabbage water, cabbage soup. You could not find a leaf of cabbage. So they didn't spend too much on us for working with them. But yet they decided they wanted to get rid of us. So the tailors thought they were going to kill us. But they didn't do that yet. So what happened one day, they came when the high-ranking officer said that we're going to be deported. So the first thing they didn't let us go anybody to work. They kept us all in one area, in that slave labor camp. And they brought in extra soldiers and extra dogs, and they chased us out of this slave labor camp to get on the trucks and then go to the railroad yard. And they put us in those freight cars, I don't know, maybe 75 people to a car, no water, no bathroom. For 3 days we were traveling. We were not priority transport. When any train came through with a German civilian, we had to stop and let them go through. So we were like a slow boat to China. They didn't care, slower the better, because a lot of people die on the road. And we had 3 dead people in our car. We didn't know that until we were unloading. We finally, on the 3rd day, in the afternoon, we finally arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau. They opened up the doors on the wagons, on the freight cars, and the uniform guys, they said, I hate to say, they were good looking. You think they were angels. Such a clean uniform, their shoes were shined, they were well dressed, but they're nothing but killers, that's all they were. They opened the doors out on the wagons, and they ordered us out. And right away, again, another selection as you came off the train. Left, right, left, right. Half of them, they murdered that night. We were told by the inmates who were there before. Your friends that you came with, they're already in heaven. They didn't have maybe any room for us, or they had an order how many they need to dispose of. I think they had an order how many they need to kill that day. So I was lucky again. I was sent to the good side over, and half of my transport went straight to crematorium. The good side was, the first thing they did is give you a number on your arm, A18991. That was my number. They took away your name. You came there with you didn't have any valuables with you. All your name is your precious name that your parents gave you when you were born. And to degrade you more, they took away your name, and you became a number. And that's what they addressed us. Amongst each other, of course, we called each other by name. But they addressed us only by number. We stayed in this Auschwitz-Birkenau, my group. We only stood there for 6 months. We stood there. And we had no work to do other than helping the guys that were assigned to pick up dead bodies on the compound of the factory, of the camp. Some people died from exhaustion. Some gave it up. They didn't want to live anymore. So these little who were assigned to that group, they had to lift the body up and put them on a little pickup little wagon, and they would wheel him over towards the crematorium. And the crematorium could not cremate so many people as the people died and they killed. It was impossible. So outside was like, I hate to give you an example, it was like a lumberyard. bodies laying on this way, bodies laying this way, a pile, waiting to get burned. And this is what I saw when I was 15 years old. I came to Auschwitz, I was 15 years old. By myself, I lost all my family then. But I didn't tell you the story with before we got to Auschwitz. When the guy gave us this day that we're going to be deported, the tailors organized an escape. And then not the whole, impossible, a whole camp should run out. Whomever they could trust. My sister wouldn't tell me about the escape till the night before. When you get back at 11 from the factory, do not go into the barrack. Wait for me outside, and I'm going to come and get you, and we are going to escape. Best news I heard at 15 years old. I wanted to get out of this hell place. They didn't treat us that good. Hungry, dirty, beating all the time. I was looking forward to get out. She came by all of a sudden, exactly what she said, with a Jewish policeman. I didn't know she befriended him. She held his hand. My sister grabbed my hand, and all were running towards somebody who already cut the wall, the wire fence, and also the wooden fence. The wooden fence gave us away a lot of trouble because the wire fence, somebody bought clippers, and it was quietly, you cut off the wires that doesn't make noise. Or you may try to break through a wooden fence, it made a little noise, and that attracted the German Shepherd dogs to bark and growling and barking. So these two guys that were on the top of the tower, it was pitch black, and they noticed something is not right. So they flipped the lights on, and they kept looking. There they see people are running out. So of course they turned their guns on them, and they started shooting. Some of them they killed, some of them they wounded. We were next in line almost. We let little groups go at not everybody at one time. So you get out first, and then we were next to go. And all of a sudden, it was my next. They switched the light on, and I aimed there with my sister. The bullet grazed me in the back of my head, but from the impact, it still knocks you out. So it took a few seconds for me to revive myself and get back up. And I yelled for my sister, Faggy, where are you? Why'd you leave me alone? You know, she became like my mom to me. And all of a sudden, I don't see her. So I said to myself, she would not run away without me unless she thought I was dead maybe when I dropped. Maybe that's what she thought. But I think what happened is I didn't know till the next morning when they did the counting. They kept shooting that area, and whoever was behind us, some people had a chance to run away, disperse back into the barracks. They were running in different directions. With the gun, he could only shoot so much in one time because we were running people all over the place. And with me, I lowered my head, and I was watching which way the floodlight was going. And my barrack was also on the opposite corner, away from the hole, and also the women's barrack. And I was aiming towards the women's barrack. I thought maybe my sister got hit. Maybe my sister thought I was dead, and she never wanted to go run out anymore, so she wound up in the women's barrack. That's what I thought. I made it into the women's barrack. There was a woman, the Black Elster, they were called, the head of the block of the barrack, a Jewish woman. She knew me from my town. She knew my name. I knew her name at the time. I said, I'm here to see if my sister Fag is here. Your sister Fag is not here. You get out of here. She kept pushing me out. You're going to get us all killed. I was bleeding in the back. I actually saw I was bleeding. I was just talking to her in the front. I said, I was trying to escape with my sister and the policeman. I was wounded. Well, you got to get out of here. She kept pushing me out of there. Well, I was stubborn. I was 15 years old, stronger than her. I sat down in the doorway. She could not close the door. And she was arguing with me, back and forth. And I didn't see my first cousin until people stopped running out anymore. So the guards were very angry. So they kept shooting into the barracks. 3 or 4 bullets, I didn't count them, but quite a sight to see. Into the women's barrack. Wood cannot stop a bullet. All these women jumped off the bunks, and on the ground she went, on the floor. They were all eye level with me, and I was looking for my sister, and I don't see her, but I did recognize my first cousin, Ida. I yelled at Ida. Ida said, your sister Fage is not here. I know what bunk she was. She's not here. What happened to you? So I told her I was wounded. Can she help me? She had a bucket of water, and that allowed mouthed woman left me alone already. Since the bullets came into the barrack, she stopped bothering me then. And then my cousin cleaned me up, and she gave me a rag to wipe me off first with cold water, with the water, whatever's in the bucket. And she cleaned me up, and she gave me a dry rag, put it on top of your wound. I had a 2-inch cut right here, like you take a knife and cut it. The skin, luckily the bullet didn't go undone, otherwise I wouldn't be here speaking to you. But then again, after that she cleaned me up. She took a beret off that she was wearing, put my beret on your head, keep the rag underneath. But I cannot stay in the women's barrack too long, because if they catch me there, they'll definitely kill me, because I was trying to escape. Well, they didn't bother me. I never saw them. They stopped shooting, but the searchlight was running in different directions. They were trying to see if anybody still is running around. Nobody did once they started shooting. Everybody ran into their own barracks. So I lowered my head. I was figuring out, it was late in the evening. I was looking to see which way the floodlight was going away from me. How long does it take you to come back? I figured that out. I was counting. And at 15, I could still run. I lost a lot of blood, but I could still run fast. And I lowered my head, and I made it in. All I wanted to do is go back to my barrack where I belong with the men. So I'll be safe. And I made it in there, and I was safe. A few minutes later, after we were all settled in the barrack, the loudspeaker came on. We all had to empty out of the barrack. Each barrack, they had to have the people that slept in that barrack to stay in the front of each barrack. And they were counting. They wanted to see how many people escaped. And that's the only way they can tell. If, let's say, the barrack hold 100 people and they only have 75, what happened to the other 25? They either escaped or they wounded at the hole over there. So that's what they were trying to find out. And then as they were counting, in the meantime, the night shift came back in, and they would not let them in. They would have them between the two wire fences, the wooden fences, and the barbed wire fence. They kept it there until they sent us out to work, and then by that time they were finished counting. They knew exactly what happened. So before they sent us out to work, they told us, as they were counting, to turn a different direction, and the direction was where the hole was. And I looked there, and there's the policeman I was running with, sitting upright position, moaning and groaning. And other people you could hear, you were not that far away, you could hear people, the doctor, they were looking for some help. They were wounded. Where they were wounded, I don't know, but they definitely could not run anymore. They had to stay there between the two fences. And then he pulled out the front of our faces. He took this gun out, and he started shooting all the wounded people. The first one was the policeman that I was trying to run with. The policeman dropped. As soon as he dropped, there's my sister Fagin laying stretched out right by his legs. Before he was blocking my view, I could not see him until he dropped on the ground. There I saw my Fagin. I said, "Dear God, I'm 15 years old. You left me all by myself." And I said, "How will I make it?" I did know I have a sister in America. And I said, "Someday if I make it, I'll be in America someday with God's help." And then after that, after they killed all the wounded ones, they fixed the fence, went back to normal. They went back to normal. The date still was there that this high-ranking officer told the tailors that you won't be deported. And that day came, and they put us on trucks. They wouldn't got nobody to go to work, and they took us towards the railroad station, and they loaded us up on the train. We stopped we were traveling for 3 hours, we came. And then no water, no bathroom for 3 days. Anyway, we came there at Auschwitz-Birkenau and unloaded, and another selection, like I already told you before, started. And I was the lucky one. And then after the tattoo number, they gave you a haircut. The haircut was done by Jewish barbers. They were standing, each one on a chair with a hand clipper. He noticed the wound on my head, and he asked me, but I was not afraid of him. I was talking to him in Jewish. I said I was trying to escape with my sister and the policeman. They were killed, and I was wounded. And he could not talk to you too long because they were watching to see how he behaves. Does he cut hair? And the next in line. Anyway, the number was one stop. The haircut was the second stop. Finally, a shower. We were not aware of the tricks yet about the shower. Once you get into the shower room, instead of water, you have the cyclone gas. We were not aware of that until a day later. After we came out of that shower room, the old-timers who were there a few months already told us how lucky we were that we were not gassed to death, that we were able to wash and clean. They took away our dirty, filthy clothes that we wore for 3 years, filthy, still full of lice. And they, after you got cleaned up, they took away the dirty clothes, and they finally furnished us with striped uniforms. Before we were wearing regular clothes, whatever we had home. And the uniform consisted of a cap, a jacket, pants, wooden bottom shoes with canvas tops, no underwear or socks, and a 3-foot wide little blanket rolled up. Every camp we went, they gave it that little blanket. We stayed there. Luckily, I only stayed in Auschwitz-Birkenau for 6 months. I didn't stay there too long. We were not in that bad shape yet. We were not skeletons. We were able still to work. And out of nowhere, like I told you before, the only work we did is helping these old-timers who are assigned to picking up the bodies and taking them to a crematorium. They were assigned. We used to help them with them. And also, that's why we were sewing this lumberyard with the bodies just laying, waiting for cremation. And so we were there like for 6 months. And then out of nowhere, a German civilian man came in with 2 guards and the dogs, and they came right, not our barrack, and they ordered us out of the barrack to stay in the front of the Arab, and not 3 in the row, but scattered like in a circle, so it would be, so he could look at you very good. And the civilian German would point at you, and that means you come over here where he is. And he took, I think, either 50 or 75 hours out of us, maybe 50, I can't remember the count. He took us, and we didn't know where he was taking. You can't ask questions. So he took us out of there, and I can't remember either on foot or did he got a little pickup truck to take us over to another camp called Buna Manowitz, a subcamp of Auschwitz. Auschwitz consisted of 3. Auschwitz 1, Birkenau 2, Buna Manowitz is 3. And if you read the book called Night by Elie Wiesel, he was there at the time at Buna Manowitz. Not at the same time that we were there, but I remember reading in the book that he came out of Buna Manowitz. Anyway, that man sort of saved our lives, 50 of us. He took us out of there from Auschwitz-Birkenau and he put us Buna Manowitz. And that man was either a manager or either the owner, I think he was a manager, or the chemical company called IG Farben. Initial I and G as in good, and then Farben, F-A-R-B-E-N or B-I-N. They're still in operation now. Aspirin people are still with them, I think. Our job was assigned just to build a road in the part of that chemical company with cobblestones and sidewalks. And that was our job. And it was already 1945. The war was starting already to end. The American army was already fighting Nazis already. Out of nowhere, we see airplanes flying overhead, and the siren is blowing. An IG factory, all the non-Jews were able to run to a bunker, including the guards, including the dogs. We had to be outside, and also the capo that was watching us, he had to stay with us outside. And all of a sudden, the American Air Force is here, and they started to bomb. They bombed only the rail leading into IG factory, so they couldn't receive any supply, shoot out any supplies. And then they came back more aggressive. We never got into the bunker, never. And then after that, they got more aggressive, the Air Force. They finally locked out the whole IG factory. All our work was for nothing, torn upside down, including the rail system and everything else. They put us on the trucks. They took us to the railway station, and we traveled. A few days, we didn't know where we were going. Some of the women were traveling in half cars, open cars already. I guess because the war was already ending. And then we were traveling all the way to Austria, Czechoslovakia. We stopped trains at stations, different stations, and they were taking us to Bavaria, Germany. And they're traveling on trains. And the Air Force, thank God, they came, and they were constantly attacking the rail. And we came to one spot. It was called Schwarzfield. I don't know how to translate. Schwarz means dark. Field means a field. It's a dark field. That's what it meant. And they were attacking that convoy, us, with the trains. And they were knocked the heck out of the locomotive to pieces. And that transport. They had a car full of SS guys were in the car traveling with us, but they were a separate car, living it up. You know, you could hear the screams or they were yelling at each other. They probably were drunk. You know, they in the car. When the American Army came and knocked the heck out of it, they even were so nice that all of a sudden they were worried for us not to get killed by the Air Force. What did they care? They ordered us out of the cars into the wooded area. But we were not allowed to run in too deep because they had the dogs outside. The minute you ran out of the car, you got in the wooded area, you had to drop. Otherwise, the dogs would get you. You could not sleep. Maybe if you tried, maybe you could. But where are you going to run? You don't know where it is. You're in a strange country. You don't know where. It's just Germany. And the rail was right near the woods, like near the forest. Almost you could touch the trees. And that's where they picked that area. And they knocked out the locomotives and some cars. And then all of a sudden, we could not ride the trains anymore. So they started with us with the marching. And the marching took its toll on us because we didn't get that slice of bread in the morning. And you didn't get that black imitation coffee. You did not get the cabbage water at night. We had nothing, nil. The only way we got a raw potato, if the two guards were hungry, their dogs were hungry, they look at a farm for their benefit. And from the benefit we inherit, we got a raw potato and some water to drink. Now, if you want to take a chance and get in line to get a second potato, you're risking your life. Because if he recognizes you, there's no second guessing. He would kill you right there. Because you were already in the line, you had no business coming back into the line. They were very killers, nothing but murderers. And that's the only way we kept alive is that raw potato. Here and there, they wouldn't go every day to a farm. When they were hungry, they ran out of supplies, they would make sure they go to the farm. And then all we were eating is sometimes leaves that dropped from the bushes in the late, by March, there were already no leaves on, or February, there were no leaves on the bushes anymore. The brown leaves became brown. They were laying on the bottom. And we were so hungry, we would take the leaves and put it in our mouths and kept chewing them up, drinking the water out of the creek to wash it down. And then the only way we got is the raw potato. Anyway, we were marching from, I would say, the middle of February or the end of February to the 24th of April, 1945. We saw something happen, a lot of flying, low plane flying, but we did not know who the planes are. We thought it was the German planes. But while we were in Flossenburg, in the IG factory, working on the road, and when the bombs came down, we ran across, well, I forgot, I'm trying to memorize everything. There were 8 or 10 British war prisoners, dressed in their uniforms, clean, really, like they were on vacation. They told us, don't give up, don't give up. This is the American Air Force bombing. They were not allowed into the bunker either. So they told us, all we have to do is drop. When we heard a whistle, the release of the bomb, for us to dive like a swimming pool diving on the top of the sand. And we lay there until the bombardment stops, and then we went back to our work. But anyway, I didn't tell you that, so I backed up. But anyway, so then the 24th of April, 1945, we wound up still on the farm. This time, they didn't let us sleep outside. They put us into the silo. All of a sudden, we got a roof over our head. From the April showers, our striped uniform was soaking wet. And all of a sudden, they let us into the silo. The first thing we got in is took our clothes off. We were like a rag doll. We took our clothes off and wringed them out, laid them down on the hay. And in there, they had sheep and also goats were in there. It was very nice and warm there without clothes. It was very comfortable. We dried out, rested out. They gave us our raw potatoes going into the silo, and then in the morning, they woke us up on the 25th and woke us up early in the morning before even daylight, and we only marched for 2 hours that day. And they put us near a wooded area. Not so much in the woods, you were more outside the woods than inside the wood. We saw the convoys going on the highway, heavy artillery pieces. We didn't know who this army was. We thought they were Germans. We didn't know. The airplanes were coming overhead. We didn't know. If the British wouldn't tell us about the IG factory, that this is American planes, don't give up. But we never gave up. I never gave up. I had a sister in America. God I said I had faith in God that someday I'll be in America, although I lost part of my family anyway, but I made it. Anyway, they marched us for 2 hours, and all of a sudden, while we're sitting at the edge of the forest, our 2 guards and the 2 dogs snuck away from us. They could have killed every one of us very easily, but they were afraid to shoot the gun because the American army was just a block away, maybe 2 blocks. And when you fire a rifle, it makes a whole lot of noise. And they didn't want to kill us that way and give themselves away. So they decided to sneak away. They got into a farm, and they changed their clothes from uniform to civilian clothes, and just another German. And then all of a sudden, we're still sitting there with anticipation, and what's going to happen to us? We had no guards. Anybody can come and kill us now, although they were the first that could kill us, and they didn't. And all of a sudden, while we're sitting there and thinking what could happen and what will it happen, a tank took off from the main highway towards us. And we said, for sure, they're going to kill us now, for sure. So what happened? God sent us down an American tank, came off the main highway, and he stopped 5 feet away from us. The hatch opened up in the tank, a tight squeeze. He stuck himself out like a genie come out of a bottle. It was a very tight squeeze in there. He was blonde hair, crew cut he had, in America written here. And somebody probably spoke English in my group because he put his hands on the mouth. He said, we are Americans and all of you are free. I still get electricity running through my body now when I came to that point because that was the best time of my life. All of a sudden, I'm 15 years old. Someone tells me I'm free. Thank you, God. But why did it take you so long? I started complaining. Before I was praying to God every day by day. I said, save me another day. You can only play a day ahead. I said, someday I'll be in America with my sister. And I was liberated April the 25th, 1945 at the age of 17. And they tell me I weighed 75 pounds. So I was nothing but a skeleton at that age. And we all, bones. So the guard, the one with the tank, told us to line up behind the tank. He took us by the forest, and he took us across an empty field, across the highway, and into a farm. At the farm, one soldier, American soldier, opened the door, and the next one for us to go in. But we didn't pay attention to the 2 soldiers at all. We didn't think there's going to be food inside. We didn't have any food for 5 years. All of a sudden, you're going to have food in there. We saw mighty appetizing stuff outside the farmer's house. He had 3 big pails or dishes with potato peelings. And we got on our hands and knees, never looked at the soldier that opened the door up. We concentrate only on the peelings with the white flour. You didn't even have a spoon. We had a spoon, never took it off. From my pants, it was all tied up. The 5 years I was there, I never took the spoon. They never gave you any food to eat with a spoon. Anyway, we got on hands and knees and cleaned off those potato peelings, and we wanted a lot of water to drink. Then we went in. We come inside, we looked, and then we looked at each other and said, oh my God, why did we eat this peelings? They had a table full of food, normal food. And people were there liberated the night before. But guess what? They were all sick of dogs. That good food, they either didn't agree with their stomachs or they overate. The peelings didn't hurt us. All we wanted to do was drink water. And those 2, and they were screaming, doctor, doctor, doctor. They were sick about mostly stomach problem. Maybe their stomachs couldn't agree with the good food, or maybe they overate. Who knows? I don't know what happened. But anyway, it took 3 hours for the medics to come. In those days, they're not like here. You punch a little thing in 2 seconds. They know what you see. You see each other. There took 3 hours for the medics to come, and the medics came and they gave out medication to every sick one. And then I showed them the wound on my head. I had a scab on it, but underneath it was all full of pus, whatever they call it. It didn't look good, but the hair covered it all up. They never saw me being wounded. But the soldier gave me a sign like this. I didn't know what it meant, but he came over with the shaved part of my area where my hole was, where my wound was, and then he gave me medication. He put a bandage on there. 3 months later, all I had was a scar because I was in a human being's hands and not these killers. If these killers would ever saw this on my head, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So I want to thank you, this beautiful audience. I didn't expect that many people, but thank you so much for coming to listen to me. Really, I very much, so I could not believe that that many people will be here. So thank you for coming, and God bless all of you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take some questions?
Yes.
We'll open the floor up to questions. If anyone has any questions for Henry, please come up to the microphone, and I might repeat it for him just so everyone can hear. Please come to the microphone.
Test 1, 2, test. Henry, I have a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is, do you harbor any anger? In our culture, forgiveness is a big thing. Do you, how did you find it in your heart to forgive or not be angry the rest of your life?
I'm not angry the rest of my life, but I will never forgive them. The German population, labor born after that murdering, I have nothing against them. It wasn't their fault. But their great-grandparents or grandpas or grandmas, whatever, they stood by and let it happen. Those I will not forgive. I'm sorry. The only ones that they forgive is the ones that they merited, but they are dead. They can't be, and I will not forgive them for that. But I have nothing against the German people. We're born after that. Young people, we have teachers sometimes at the museum. They go see they see the exhibits. They come down and they ask, "Do you have any survivors in here in the Holocaust Museum?" And we usually sit there, two of us, at the desk. It's called donors desk and membership desk. People come with groups. They come around, and children your age. I was your age. I spent my life from 12 until 17. And he said, you get an education, and I had all these terrible things to see. And I was in my mind, I saw enough. At 15 years old, I had no business seeing all that. I was a child. But still, you guys complaining a little bit too much homework. Believe me, do the homework. I don't care if you stay up all night long, do the homework. It's good. It's good for you. Well, yeah, all we could think of is a piece of bread. Give us something to eat. That's our whole time we were there for 5 years. All we could think is food. Always food, food, food. Never had enough. They only give you that little slice of bread and work you to death. They expect you to do the work on an assembly line with non-Jewish people who work. They came from their home. They ate 3 meals a day, and they gave them a soup in the factory 12 o'clock. And all we were doing amongst each other, fighting over the containers of the soup. Because some of the soup, when you cook, you know, you women that cook, they know the soup sticks against the wall of the container. And we had scrapes. So we had to fight over it to clean those 5 containers out, because you can make yourself a good meal out of it. Scrape it in there and just with the hand and just eat it. That's the only soup that we got in there, unless you waited for the evening to get that cabbage water. And those people, but then again, we had to perform the same way as the non-Jews did. We had to work.
Hi. So during your talk, I was thinking of in the book Night by Elie Wiesel.
Can you hear?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you hear me?
Speak a little louder if possible.
Okay. Hello? Okay. So I was wondering how your experience during the Holocaust and in the concentration camps affected your relationship with your Jewish faith and with God. And because in the book Night, you read about Elie Wiesel's own relationship with God. He writes about that. And I just was curious, how did your experiences in the camps challenge your spirituality or deepen it, or just what was your experience?
How did your experiences in the camp affect your Jewish faith?
My Jewish faith?
Yeah.
I never lost faith in God. That's what sustained me. I had faith in God. That's the only one I could talk to. You couldn't talk to the gods. Amongst each other, we could talk to each other out of troubles we had. But God, I said, every day we could only pray a day at a time. Please save me that day. And the next day you made it, you went to sleep, you say, save me another day, and another day, only by day, only by day. And we did. My sisters, both, of course, and my mom were not that lucky. They were murdered right at a young age. I at least survived, I think. And then I had a brother. By the way, he's 103 years old now. He's still alive, the third child. The one that ran away with the soldier. He made it to America. He came here in 1941. He escaped from Poland to Lithuania. And in Lithuania, I don't know if any of you are aware of that, they had a Japanese ambassador. His name was Shukaharo. I don't know, was that the first name or last name? He was helping the extra Hasidic Jews with false passport, and they sent them to Manchuria. And from Manchuria, whoever claimed them, they called their families. My sister sent papers for him, and my brother came here to America just two months before Pearl Harbor. In 1941 he came. So he was safe, but I didn't know where he was. When I came to New York with the other brother that I met in the Polish army, I met him through a cousin. In fact, that same cousin who helped me with the bleeding. She all of a sudden says, I'm going to Poland. I was looking in different places for my family. I went to Bergen-Belsen, and Bergen-Belsen was liberated by the British. The British told me I could only stay 3 days. I said, sir, I only want 1 day here because I didn't want to be there with them because I thought I'd get hooked up with the British. I won't be able to come to America. I won't be called a displaced person anymore. So that was in my head. But anyway, while I was there in Bergen-Belsen, I ran to my cousin, Ida. She said, I'm going to Poland. Do you want to go with me? I said, why are you going to Poland? I'm going to look for my brother, she says. He was tangled up. The Russians got him when they occupied Poland. I think they caught him, they put him in jail. I don't know the reason why, I don't know. But anyway, she's going to go to Lodz, Poland. She heard they had there a displaced person camp in Lodz, Poland, organized by the United States. So I'm sure when it's organized by the United States, there was enough food. She went there and located her brother. Her brother knew of my brother, who was in the Polish army, who I didn't see, like maybe he was drafted in 1936. They had to serve like 3 or 4 years in the Polish army fighting the Nazis. Well, anyway, she knew, her brother knew of my brother, and they all three got together. They said that I am alive, and I'm near Frankfurt am Main, Germany, in a displaced person camp called Salzheim, organized by the United States and also by UNRWA, UNRR with the abbreviation, some organization who helped. And then it took him about 3 months, and how he came over to see me, I don't know, by boat or by plane. But what I'm trying to tell you, once we came to America together, we came to New York, and we were expecting a woman to pick us up, my sister. We never knew of the brother that he was alive. All I knew, he ran away when I was 12 years old. He ran away with a soldier. Well, they got closer to me, and I said, we all three brothers looked alike, like three musketeers. We all looked alike. The girls looked different. All of them looked different. But the three brothers, we all looked alike. And Dave was his name, and I said, Dave, well, what are you doing here? The last time I saw you, you were running away with the Polish soldier. So he started complaining and gave me the complaining, trying to put on a scale that I have a better time than he did. I said, Dave, you here? Take me to the sister's house. I said, when did you come here in 1941? I said, if you would have let me run away with you, I would have been in America in 1941. But what could I do with you? You were a little boy. You were I had hardly could take care of myself. I said, Dave, stop. Don't tell me what you did, what I did. He had zero, believe me. He had no problem at all. He wouldn't go through what I went through, all these 5 camps and the ghettos and all that. No way. I don't think he would have made it. But anyway, he is 103 years old. He's still alive.
Alrighty.
And that's who came to pick us up.
Okay. Thank you again for your discourse. Sorry,
Emily,
Okay.
start listening because I can't hear.
All right, can you hear me? Okay. So thank you again for your discourse. I just wanted to ask, so my great uncle was one of the Air Force pilots, the Americans who liberated Poland. And so I have a great respect for your generation, for both the Americans and those who are survivors. It's a time in history that is being forgotten, especially among our generation. What would you suggest we do to, I guess, to remind others of the greatness of people during that time, and to help others to, I guess, perpetuate that?
All
Remember.
we want to do as the young people or whoever it is, remember us. Carry our flight on. We are dying out. We have some of the volunteers, some of them 97 years old. I'm 86. I mean, if God grants me a little longer, fine. I'm not in a hurry to leave. But I keep talking mostly to young folks. And the young people will carry our plight on. All we ask you is remember us. See, injustice is done to any human being. Speak out. Don't be a bystander. Speak out if you see something is wrong to any human being. Black, white, yellow, blonde hair, red hair. We all were put on this earth for a reason, differently. And also respect other people's religion. Please, respect the religion. That's their belief. That's fine. I believe in what I believe. You believe what you want to believe in. And that's what we're asking for, the young people to remember what we went through so it wouldn't happen again. So far, it doesn't look too good. They're fighting all over the world. They're killing one another still going on. Maybe by your lifetime it will stop, not before mine.
My question to you is, how have you coped with what you have been through? Has it affected you psychologically? And have you had long-term physical health issues? And have you had a good life despite having gone through such?
Well, I had a little problem in the beginning. You have vitamin deficiency, it's called, I guess. You had to go to doctors and to cure all that. And there was a reason for us, but the diet we were on at a young age, his growing age, and to get that little piece of bread and you get a little black imitation coffee and a little bit water soup at night. What kind of food is that for a young man to grow up? So I had vitamin deficiency. I got over it with the doctor's help, of course. But lately, it's catching up, but it's mostly age because I don't walk too good. I kept on wearing all these wooden shoes and keep marching and marching and marching. Your feet can only hold so much, So if you complain to the doctor, he says, I told him, doctor, I don't walk too fast. Can you give me something? What's your hurry? Where are you going? He says, as long as you can dress in the morning. I said, yep, I'm thankful for that every day. When I can dress myself, I did all the things that you have to do when you get up, yourself with no help. I'm thankful for that. But that's the only coping that we had.
Have you had
psychologists? They sent me to a German doctor here to see high psychology. They hooked you up so many wires on the head that I couldn't find after work, I could not find my house back. It's so crazy. It was pushing buttons and registering things. I couldn't even get off the elevator even. And I told how can you remember the guy's name? I remember Dr. Gassel. It was a German Jewish doctor. They paid him to examine us because we were receiving preparation, monthly, like in those days, was $175 a month. It was worth 1 hour to be there for $175. They still wanted to prove that you need our help, that you're psychologically sick. But it was nothing wrong with me. I was 19 years old when I got here, and I used to tell the guy, I said, don't judge the book by its cover. Inside I've still got plenty of trouble. But he says, no, you look normal. There's nothing wrong with you. He gave me a bill of health, but they still gave me my pension, of course. But like I say, one day, even 1 hour, was worth what they gave you the monthly. But like I say, maybe because I was young, and I was not affected psychologically. Maybe the older people might have maybe more trouble than I had. We have some survivor volunteers at the museum who got sick out of nowhere. They lose their mind. They don't recognize who it is. They don't even recognize their wives. We have the two of them, Regina and Sam Spiegel. Sam Spiegel was a strong man. He was in the roofing business when he got here. He even helped with the subway stations to build the ducts. It was doing business. All of a sudden, he lost his mind. He didn't know who his wife was. And he wound up in that place where they keep him. And the wife still stay with him. She's in the same compound. And she goes to visit him. He only recognizes her. But everybody else here doesn't know. So a lot of people did get sick, and mostly the older. He was a little older than I was, definitely.
Hi, I just wanted to know if you ever saw any glimmer of humanity or compassion from the soldiers, from the German soldiers, or was it just kind of that they were so trained that they were just unaffected by it, or did you ever see them kind of break?
Did you ever come across a compassionate Nazi soldier?
Passionate?
Compassionate?
Oh, compassion, no. Not where I was. None of them good. The Wehrmacht,
They were all
the
just
SS,
very much business.
they were all rotten, even the Wehrmacht. They just didn't like us, period. And maybe, I can't speak for everywhere, some other places, maybe they did compassion a little bit, maybe more. But where I was, no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so my question is, have you ever gone back to the camps you were at? And did you get closure if you did?
Believe it or not, 2 months ago, I was back to Poland and Germany. I went back to Auschwitz-Birkenau, but I was a free man. I walked in Auschwitz-Birkenau. There was one barrack there. I walked in. I said, nobody got a gun on me. I can walk in and walk out. But my kids were very angry. I took my 3 sons with me. They were very angry that the world let it happen. And how could they be so hateful to kill people the way they were killing them? And I didn't show too much, what do you call it? I didn't want to break down. So I felt macho in the front of the kids. I didn't want them to feel that bad. But they were angry the whole time when we were in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And then also when we went back to Flossenburg. They're the ones that invited me to come. Every year they have a reunion there. So we went to Flossenburg, then we went back to Krakow, and then I was able to go back to my own town where I was born. And I went there, Niska was the name of the street, number 13. Number 13, I looked it up. There it is. It's an eyeglass place now. They threw my house down as the Germans came in. It was somehow sticking out the street too far. So they threw it down, and we wound up living in an apartment towards the end. With not the whole family, not now 9 kids. Just by 5 people we were living in that place. But right then, I never went inside to tell the owners, excuse me, that was my house. I didn't cause any problem. I didn't want any problem with the kids. And instead I get into a fight. So I kept low profile. I kept it low, but I saw where I was born. And the only thing, my marker was a 70-foot or 75-foot cross that I had to get water from a well to carry it in the house. And I would go every morning in the front of that cross. That cross was still there. I said, that's my marker right there. And the well was not there anymore. The well, because people have water in their homes now. They had plumbing all of a sudden. But we had to carry the water on. You have a little gear on the shoulders with the chain and 2 buckets of water. And so that's why I knew I was in the right place out there. And then I saw number 13, and the synagogue was not there. That was burnt up. While we were in the ghetto, they burnt the synagogue up.
This will be our last question.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So I just wanted to, you mentioned the moment when the German guards left you guys, and then the tank came over, and the tank opened, and the genie from the bottle came
Yes.
up. And he said, we are Americans.
That's what they said.
You are
To us.
free. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your feelings at that time and your feelings
Well,
about America. And
All I know, we were skeletons and hugging each other and crying and happy at the same time that we finally made it. We finally made it. And we were praying to God, thank God for saving our lives. And we made it. You know, we were all skeletons. You know, but what else could you do? I couldn't dance. I couldn't lift my feet up. I was too weak. I would have danced. I said, thank God we made it. And complained, of course, to God, why did it take you so long? Otherwise, I was praying to God every day, day by day, day by day. But that was the happiest time of our life. The worst time when they took my mom away, and they didn't let her go back to give me a little hug. And then the second time, the happiness was when the two soldiers said, we are Americans and all of you are free. And the word free means a lot. Here we take it for granted. It's not a freedom. You can speak whoever you want to. You can cuss out the president, and you don't get put to jail. In Europe, God forbid you say something against the government or something, you wind up getting in jail. They never saw you again. They arrest you in the middle of the night. So we have to protect our freedom. And I thank my volunteer soldiers, whoever what they call the liberators, and also the veterans. They fought the war to protect our freedom. And that's why I'm thankful for them to do that. So we have to protect our freedom, definitely here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Greenbaum, on behalf of everyone, we want to thank you so much for coming. We appreciate very much, and we'll do our best to honor your heritage. And
Thank you so much for having me here. And you had a beautiful audience here. I didn't expect that, but more the merrier. More the merrier.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.